Welcome to the Comix Asylum Podcast, where we explore the world of comic books, movies, television, and pop culture. My name is Steve Bino, and this week, Paris Alleyne stops by to talk about working on the Eisner award-winning Afterlift, his Black History Month art initiative, and a new project with Cypress Hill. All right, I'd like to welcome to the Asylum Paris Alleyne, artist, colorist, Eisner a winner. Welcome to Comix Asylum. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
No complaints. All's good. So how has 2021 been for you so far?
It's been pretty good, actually. I had a couple goals I wanted to initially start out with. I wanted to do more illustration work. I wanted to make more connections and do a lot more networking. And so far, I've been doing exactly that, and things have been going pretty well. I've been a little worried that I might be getting a little too busy.
You know what,
though? Good problems to have.
It's a very good problem. Because the other one is not what you want.
Honestly, yeah.
Excellent. So first of all, let's start off with the Eisner award-winning Afterlift. How does it feel to be a part of that? And can you tell our audience what it's about?
Well, first, let me say it is about a rideshare program that I guess helps ferry the souls to the afterlife. Very much like a modern version of River of Styx and paying the toll, but updating it. So instead of having a coin, you're doing it all through the app.
Right.
It was really interesting. I was given all the scripts, but I liked to read them kind of going one at a time. So reading the first issue and then coloring it, it was a lot more like I was reading it somebody reading in a shop would. So for me, I was going through the pages and I was coloring them. Man, I don't know what's gonna happen in the next issue, but where I'm leaving it, I'm really looking forward to it. And it was really great working with the team. The story, it was something that I'd never worked on before. You got to do a little bit of normalcy in the first issue, and then every issue as it got a little wilder. I switched up the color scheme for each issue, so that it has its own palette. So if someone showed me a page right now, I could tell you exactly what issue it's from, just because every issue has its own tone. And it was the first time in working on a project, because I knew it was only 5 issues, that I was able to actually make that effort, to say that each was going to be different. Because if it was it's a run that went on and on and on, eventually I was going to have to repeat it. But because it was a much bite-sized story, I really could go ahead and have a lot of fun with it. And the team, they were great. They pretty much allowed me to do the majority of what I would think to do. Anytime I had an idea I wanted to experiment, they were pretty much on board with it, as long as it looked good. Which hopefully, I think most of them look good.
No, it looks great. And can you elaborate on your teammates?
Well, Tim Zdarsky, I feel the name speaks for itself at this point. He's done so much, and because Daredevil run right now, it's so amazing. It's great to read it as a fan, because Daredevil also has been one of my favorite characters for a long time. So reading it, knowing it's I know this guy. It's really, really cool. Jason Liu, the artist, he's because we're all from Toronto,
right?
And as an illustrator, he's great. He and I are already friends. There was a point because we would, before everything going on, with COVID, we would meet up in Mississauga. It was right near where he works, and right now I used to live. And he and a bunch of friends would meet up every other week for a drink and draw at this coffee shop. And then he kind of hinted at one point, he's oh, I'm working on this project with this new writer. And we're all oh, cool. And then eventually is hey, so we're kind of looking for somebody. Would you be that person for us? And I was I don't know what anybody in this project, but sure, I guess. I got an opening in my schedule. And then as I found out more and more about it, it was, I was happy to have the hole in my schedule, but I would have made the time for it either way. And the letterer, DTA, he's not Canadian, so I haven't actually personally met him. But I love the work he was doing on the book. I've seen other books, and I think lettering is one of those things where I've tried to letter my own work And I realized I have a huge respect for letterers because I'm not great at it. I understand like a lot of the challenges, and to see someone do it, but also do it like well with like finesse, to have different styles of it in like a single book, blew me away. And then Allison, of course, like the editor, like, she's great. She's also like, from Toronto, so like I knew her. I knew like her from editing Jason's old book, Pitiful Human Lizard. And it was like a great team. Like I think we had like a really nice synergy. And I'm really looking forward to working with them again.
The funny thing about a comic book is it's like a film, but with fewer moving parts. And
oh yeah, everyone's
like,
a lot more responsible for like their thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really great about your situation with Afterlift is how well you guys were able to mesh together to make such an amazing project.
Yeah, no, I definitely think like the team worked super. Sorry, my phone's falling in my pocket. The team like they worked like really well together. I think like Allison was great at just organizing everybody and like keeping us on track. Like she had like all the due dates, and we were done. Like we had a lot of it done before it was even announced. Like it was like such a like a perfect like moving conveyor belt. Like Jason was like such a fast illustrator. There's points, I mean, like it takes way less time to color paste than it does to draw it. But there's points I felt I'm like, am I not going fast enough with this? Like we're getting the pages, like I'm getting the book done in like a week. Should I be getting it done in like in less time than that? Because everything was just so like well organized and fast. It was really crazy.
And is it easier to work with people when you already have an established connection with them, or does that complicate things a little bit more in terms of like putting your foot down when you have an artistic opinion on something, like how you want the colors to go, for example?
It honestly, I find it's both easier and harder. It's easier in the way where it's like, I know, like they know me already, so like they trust that some of the decisions I will make. And like it's great to see, because I mean a lot of times I work on some other projects and like you send them a lot of work and they may have like a million ads like, maybe I think it'll look better if you did this or that. Maybe you go for a little more of a blue than like a green or something like that. Well, with this team, like there's a lot of like, we trust what you're doing. But at the same time, when it does come to like I don't really know about that, it's very like, it's personal in the way where it's like, well, we're gonna hop on like a Zoom call in a week, so we better like sort this out now, like amicably, so that in a week it's not like passive aggressive like comments at each other.
Yeah, that
I mean,
makes sense.
also in that same way, on that same Zoom same Zoom calls, because like those replaced our drinking draws. It is a lot of like, oh yeah, no, I'm working on this thing. I got like this company contacted me. They wanted me to work on this. I had to jump at the opportunity. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, you're still gonna have project time for what we're doing though, right? It's like, oh yeah, no, of course. But that's kind of make sure that I'm not like, when I talk about a project, I'm not saying like that it's gonna take a super long time. It'll be like super difficult, super complicated, take up too much of my time that I can't work on the initial project. But I mean, that's just kind of been a fun way to navigate with everybody.
That's cool. That's cool. And it was digital first, correct?
Mm-hmm. It just a couple weeks ago was released like the trade. I think it was February like 4th or 5th. I think the first issue digitally came out in like September of 2019. And I did it. Oh man. So I'm not great in the releases. Like I know when I finished them, I'm not like actually 100% sure when they came out. But I think like they started coming out in 2019. And then when the whole like deal with Comixology and I think Dark Horse like went through, that was all like 2020. So yeah, I think like the release just was beginning of this month.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And so how does working on Afterlift now compare to when you started in the industry?
I mean, when I started out, first off, rates were much lower. But there was a lot of like hesitation with everything I was doing. It's like, all right, I mean, like if I was coloring something, I was gonna make it this color. Maybe I should make it a different color. So it's like a lot of that, and in that same like that pause, like that hesitation, it's all in real time. So they get to the point like near like the end of the project, and I'm like, cool, I've finished this, but I've taken a lot of time to get here. Maybe I should look at the beginning again, see how that looks in comparison. I'm like, I've learned new things since then. Go back and fix these up a little bit. Whereas nowadays, because I'm a lot more skilled, I'm a lot more confident, so I'm making the decisions a lot faster. So by the time I get to the end of it, I may not have, learned a lot of things like since then. And I mean, there's always like the small headache where you may have like you've learned something new or you want to try a new technique. Like I really should wait till the next issue.
Right. Also helps for consistency too, right?
Oh, for sure. Like there is coloring Afterlift. There was a thing like techniques I developed. I mean, I developed like the way I colored it. I had never colored before until that first issue. So when we had like the lead up time to really try to find the look of the book, it was all experimentation for me. It was throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck, and I found like a nice little, like middle ground of like a simple way of approaching it. Because I know like Jason Liu, he always had like a more like a flat style with his coloring, but also bringing much like an exciting look to it, where it was like kind of flashy, but still trying to find that balance was difficult. Whereas, and I guess kind of to also go back to your question of like what was like the beginning of a career versus now. Before then, it was a lot of experimenting, but it wasn't. I didn't know what worked, and if something worked, it was hard to tell why it worked. It was like, cool, I like this, but what is it about it that I like, and how can I reproduce this? And I oftentimes it was just trying to do the exact same thing over and over again. And in my own spare time, it was experimenting. It was trying new things. It was trying to like dissect what made other work good, what made my own work good, and like try to add to it, not just like replicate it over and over again.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you illustrate as well too. So how does that inform your coloring sometimes?
It's interesting because I felt like I became a better illustrator when I became a better colorist. And then when I started illustrating more, I felt like my colors, I had a higher standard for them now. Where it was like, I mean, you never want to color something and think that you've made the line art worse. And you never want to draw something you feel like a colorist has not done like a good enough job. So being both those roles, it's like, I got to do my best on this side because the other guy who's also me, like, I don't want to disappoint him, but also I need to make sure that I'm not disappointing like the line art. So it's difficult, but like the illustration, like for that, I don't try to experiment with as many different styles as I do with coloring. Because for that, I worked on a project where at the end of last year where it was just like, it was an anthology and I colored 4 different shorts in that anthology. And because it was 4 different illustrators and 4 different like styles for the story, I thought to myself, let me do 4 different coloring styles. And it was fun. It was a challenge to try to really kind of make them all kind of like different enough that they're clearly different styles. But from an illustration, I'm not like that at all. Like if I was doing 4 stories, I would draw 4 stories the way I would draw. Like I feel like for your illustration, it's a lot more like the way you see the world. And I mean, I only see it one way. So I know a lot of artists have like different styles, and I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know how they do it. I'm so envious of that fact, but I mean, they figure it out, and I can't. I draw one way, and I like to add to it. I like to add like keep the style like going and like developing. But in terms of like I don't have like a comic style where I also have like a simplified version of like a cartoony style. I can't do it. It's my brain doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing those artists that can do like go from like Mark Silvestri to Scotty Young to Alex Ross. It's just kind of amazing the way that it's almost like an actor that can do Shakespeare and then do sci-fi.
And just fall right into every role, like a chameleon like that. I'm like, I'm envious of that, and I know I can't do it.
It's a massive skill. I totally hear that. And speaking of art, and we're in the middle of Black History Month, can you tell me about the initiative that you have with the 28 different drawings with Black creators and Black superheroes?
Okay, I mean, like, to give a little history on like just first off like collaborations. When I was like a teenager, I remember being on like DeviantArt, and like there was a group of artists who would work together all the time. Like they were all amazing. And then there'd be like 3 or 4 of them that come together and they draw like just a piece together. And it's from I don't know what it was. It blew my mind. I was like, these guys are all great, and they'll come together, and it's like the Avengers. Like I did. So whenever, like when I went to art school, I had a group of friends, and at one point I was like, guys, why don't we draw something together, like do the same collaboration? And then like that group of friends, like we kept working together, and then we like our art group turned into like an art collective, and we started collaborating together. And then it became like a thing. It was like a drug to me. I love collaborating. Like it's I know like some friends of mine, they'll tell me like you're working on collaboration. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we should collaborate. I'm like, oh, don't tempt me with another collaboration. That'll do it. So I joined this like Discord of other artists because a friend of mine invited me, and we done a couple collaborations. The first one we did was 8 people. Second one we did was 17 people.
Wow.
And then my friend Julian Shaw, he goes by Rock the Arts on Instagram and like Twitter. He messaged me and he was like, man, so because last year he did a project where he drew 28 black characters every day. Well, actually, last year was a leap year, so he did 29.
Yes, of course, yeah.
So he drew one every day, and it was like, we should do that. Like, there's a couple like black creators in the group. We should get together, and we'll just draw like 5 characters each, And he said that, and I'm like, what if we had 28 people, 28 characters? And his first question was the obvious one. He said, do you know 28 people? I'm like, ugh. I mean, I know some. But then that was the first project at that point, which was like between Julian and I, because like it was his initial idea, and then both of us just worked together to find as many people as we could. We were able to get people in the Discord. Then we asked our talented friends. One of that's the same collaborator, like who I first collaboration with. He's in this piece. He did like Green Lantern, Tishon Dwyer. He like I had to ask him, like, because he's like one of like my old, as far as like my art friends go, like he is one of my oldest. Then we were able to ask like some big names as well, and it was great too to see like, because most creators when they heard of it, they were actually excited, like they wanted to be a part of it. So I mean, I don't want to drop like too many spoilers. We still have like some cool names coming up that haven't been seen yet.
Right.
We were able to get like Jamal Campbell, who is currently working on like DC's Far Sector. He did Naomi. He did like Prowler for Marvel. He did all the Power Rangers covers. We have Janoy Lindsay, who also worked for like Marvel. He did like Luke Cage trade, She-Hulk. He recently did some Superman stuff. I'm trying to remember who we have so I don't spoil anything. We also we have Ray Anthony Height, who did like some like Moon Girl. His cover comic Midnight Tiger. And like that was a character I remember seeing when I was like in high school. I loved the design. I colored something for like a cover that he did like a couple of years ago. So approaching him, it was really like, I don't know if you remember me, but I colored this thing for you a couple of years ago. I don't know if you'd be interested in working on this project. And initially, actually, he said he couldn't. He was too busy. And then I was like, it's just one character. That's it. Just one character, just a line art. I'm going to color it. And at that point, it's like, just one? All right, I'm on board. So we were able to get him. And at that point, it really felt like, okay, cool. Now we have some notoriety. We have like these artists who like people know. And then it was just like getting, like the rest of it was just filling in with like our most talented friends and like our most talented friends of friends. And I think that like everyone is so different in their styles. So like seeing it really come together, we had like some digital painters, we have some like comic illustrators, there's some people who mostly do like cartoony stuff. It was great seeing all the styles come together. There's still some really good ones that people haven't seen. I'm really excited to get it. Today's the 19th, so there's like still 9 left. And the whole piece, when it comes together, like I've seen all like the pieces individually now. I still have to like color like a couple, I'm not gonna lie. But the piece so far all together, it looks so good. I'm so excited for people to see it.
Yeah, it looks great so far, and it's almost like a everyday reveal that you're waiting to see who's next. And also, too, what's really interesting is the heroes or the actual images that they've chosen. to represent, because it's like, oh, I didn't even remember that character, or that's interesting that this is the person that they chose to draw. So it's because it's kind of interesting. Sometimes you have to struggle to find Black heroes, and then on the creative side, because it's like comic books, it's kind of like the biggest undercover fame you can have. So you can follow someone and not know who they are. Like, as social media's kind of changed that. But in terms of Black creators, it's difficult to find out who they actually are unless you dig or they put themselves out there.
Yeah, I know it's like, well, actually, even like for the character selection, there is a lot of the character, because we had it almost entirely, all the artists got to choose who they drew. Mm-hmm. And it was like, we told like, give us your top 3. We'll try to give everyone one from that. We were able to do it. It was great. Because in my head, I figured, I'm like, everyone's going to want to draw like Miles Morales. Everyone's going to want to draw like Black Panther. Everyone's going to draw like the same characters, Mm-hmm. But everyone, like, they really switched it up. People said they want to draw Moon Girl. They want to draw War Machine. They want to draw Aqualad. Like, I didn't expect it.
Right.
And we came up with a list, and like, I'm very analog, so I had to write it all on paper. And we had a list of like 40 characters, and we just like had a spreadsheet we're sending around to people like, here's the character selection we have. It was as many characters we could think of, even though like the next coming weeks would be like, we should have put this person on, we should put this person on the list. And eventually, like, we were able to get filled up. There's some characters who I think people keep asking, because we're doing like little, like, we started doing like the preview of like who we're having tomorrow, just like a Black silhouette.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
People started asking like, oh, you better include this person, you better include this person. I'm like, we don't have everybody, guys. It's only 28. And I was like, I mean, like, this isn't a spoiler, but we have Icon. We don't have Rocket. Right. And I wish we could have. I was like telling people, I'm like, we have Icon. You want to draw Rocket to go with it, or? But people are like, I really kind of want to draw this character. I'm like, cool. I want everyone to have fun with it. I mean, for me, that's what I'm looking at. Like, I want everyone to have fun, like, doing the pieces. So whoever they chose, I'm like, we're cool with it. Admittedly, there are some creators who I kind of like nudged in like a certain direction.
Right.
Because like there's some characters, like we have, man, they haven't come out yet. I don't want to spoil it, but there's some characters are going to be on it. So I don't. It's not really a spoiler, but like obviously we're gonna have Black Panther, and because we have Black Panther on it, we had to have like a really dope artist for it.
Right.
So there's some people like I would love to draw. I'm like, I want to get like the dopest artist we can find to the Black Panther, and we found someone who's amazing. So Great. Like, I'm excited for people to see that one, because I don't think they're gonna expect it to happen. And there's like a couple others who are kind of like that too, where it's like, this character needs to look like great. We got to make sure we have like the best guy on it. So those are the ones like we're kind of saving to like right at the end. I think people are really gonna like, because I think there.
No. I was just gonna say, no, it looks great, and like your enthusiasm for it is infectious. Because when I'm going through your timeline, right, there's like a suspense that's building, and I'm like, okay, what are they gonna come with next, and who are they gonna get to draw? Like, it's amazing. It's almost like a 2-pronged surprise each day.
I mean, the thing is like, because like I think looking at the piece right now, it seems it's like still like pretty open, because like the composition, people don't even realize there's certain areas that look like they're full. I'm like, no, we're slotting another character right there. The person, like, they're coming right there. Like, it's not cramped, but it's full. It is a full piece. So I think people are like, they're not even gonna realize that there is 9 characters left. Looking at the piece, there's obvious spaces where characters are supposed to be, but there is some characters who are basically like, excuse me, all right, I'm supposed to be right here. Like, that's what we have coming next. As it's going on through the month, I was looking at some of the pieces earlier today. It's like, first composition, there's 2 people. Like cool. Third guy, and it's like, it doesn't look like a lot. The characters are really good, and it's great. Like, people love the full body shots versus just like some of them are just busts. So the initial ones were all just like, because we started off with Miles Morales, I drew it, then Julian, because like he and I planned this together, he did the Falcon. Right. And after that, everyone after that is like, oh, also we have T-Shawn Dwyer, also we have Sean Hill, and Sean Hill also another great one that we're really happy to have. Honestly, I'm losing myself, my train of thought, because I'm really excited about this. I really am so happy that we're able to get this together. I was saying to Julian maybe an hour ago that I didn't think, like, we started doing this all in January, and January like 4th or 5th, I told him, because we had a couple other people talking to us, we're like, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do this if we don't start everything today. And the team, like, no, they're like, well, we'll start today then. And we had our list, we all hopped in voice chat, and we're like, all right, we're going through it, writing all the names down. And then we're like, after that, like, write down everyone you know. Who we're gonna ask? Who are we friends enough with that we know will say yes? And then who are like the artists who are more of a gamble? Mm-hmm. And like you said, because you don't know all the creators who are Black. There was an artist who we were in voice chat like together like all the time in our Discord, and I didn't know he was Black. And then someone we were having a conversation. I was like, we're still looking for some people, and they're like, oh, why don't you ask Chara? And he's the person who did the blade drawing, which is
right. Yeah, that was dope, man.
Yeah. And I was like, is he Black? Like, I talk to this guy like multiple times a week. I had no idea.
Right.
So like it was great like to have him on because then it was another friend. And it's like an excited likeness where everyone's happy to like to chip in. There's some people there, or it's Janoy Lindsay. I met him on a bus, so it's like we met years ago, and I'm like, you and I are friends now. Years later, I'm like, we're working on a project. You're in? He said yes. Another artist, I met her at a gallery in like 2 cities over from here years ago, and it was like I looked at her work and I'm like, I really like your style. She like my work, and I'm like, cool. Now we have like a small like connection, and years later, I'm like, hey, Wendy. She did the storm that we posted on the 18th yesterday, and like I'm working on this project. I think you'd be great for it, and she was excited to help out. There's like a lot. This project has excited so many people, and I'm so happy to see that everyone's like really like excitedly like waiting for every new piece to come out. And I'll say on Instagram, people do like a lot of guessing. On Twitter, people really seem to like be excited when every piece comes out. They're really looking forward to like who's coming next, and like the composition. I think it was really the toughest part. But like, anyways, like I think people are really liking the way it's turning out. There's a lot of balance to it, and yeah, I'm just really happy.
Oh no, it's great. It's definitely great. And so you have the spot in your career right now. How did you get into the industry?
Honestly, like it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I went to an art school, and after graduating, I worked on like my first comic project. It was like there was a web forum. I think it was like digital webbing or something like that. And there was like a message board, and someone's like looking for an artist, 6 pages. That's it. I drew that pretty quickly, and I was like, oh my gosh, this whole comic business could be easy. And see, you're laughing because you know that's not true.
Yeah, no, it's an uphill battle with a big boulder in front of you.
And like then from there, it was like that project. I got another one pretty quickly after, and it was like a 30-page book, full color. They had me doing the pencils, inks, colors, and I was doing this all like traditionally, except for the colors, obviously. And they had me do the lettering too. And that comic was like, it's bad. I did it. I finished it. I did all the lettering. There was a lot of small like, can you move this word over just a little bit? A lot of that. It was, I mean, I'll say I was 20. I was on top of the world of that first project, and this one, I'm like, oh, this might be a little harder actually. This might not be as easy as I expected. But then from there, it was I wanted to practice my coloring, so I was coloring a lot of like my friends' work. And I mean, like, I love to say I just colored my own stuff, but it was a lot of like, hey, can you send me a piece, because I can color fast and I can draw, and I can't draw like a million pieces just to color them, just to practice. So eventually I started doing like color commissions, because people started asking like, hey, you color something for me for free, but I also want to sell it at a con. You remember when those were a thing? I want to sell it at a con. Do you think I'll pay you to do it? And I'm like, oh, cool, sure. So I did that like more and more. And then eventually I would be able to go to like a con here in Toronto, and I'd be able to walk down the aisles and I was like, colored that, colored that, colored that, colored that.
Right.
So at this point, a different creator, he came to my table and he's like, hey, we're working on a book. Would you be down to color some covers for it? And I said, sure. Colored the covers. And afterward, he's like, you know what? Do you want to color the book itself? And I said, sure. It was for a Toronto book, and that same like actual like month that I did that, I actually went to see E2 for the first time. This is in 2015, and then that's when I met up with I met some cool artists there, and I did like the Marvel interview.
Mm-hmm.
I showed them my work, and I had like these full color pages, and they asked me very simply like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to color? Do you want to draw? Like, do you want to ink? And I said, I want to do it all. And they're like, that's likely not going to happen. Like maybe like right now, pick one of them you want to do. And I'm like, all right, damn. Well, I love to just, illustrate for you. I'm like, cool. Send us your portfolio and you add more to it. But at the time I took the coloring job, I was busy,
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I try to work on something here and there. And then for the rest of like that year, I just couldn't find time to draw. I was just coloring. So at the end of the year, I was like, I quit. I quit the coloring job, and I'm like, I'm going to do my comic now.
Right.
So I did like my own comic. It was called Haven. It is been on a hiatus for a very long time. But I took 6 months and I did the first issue, pencils, inks, colors, lettering. And that's where that's when I realized lettering is a whole art itself, and I am not that type of artist.
Yeah.
But after that book, it was when I got to I really got to show people that I can put out a full book, and nothing shows people that you're ready for a job more than showing you've already done it.
It's true.
So from there, I was actually able to I got some illustration jobs, I got some coloring jobs. A lot of these companies I realized I've worked with are now out of business. So hopefully the work wasn't that bad, but
not at all.
But I was able to do one project, next project, and I was consistently making contacts, because I'm not a big texter, but I love having conversations. So when I'd go to cons, and I would just talk to people, and it was like, oh, this person's person's a writer who works at Boom. This person's a writer who works at Marvel, and an artist, and it didn't matter to me though, because I was just talking. I liked having good conversations. So it was I was able to network with all these different people. And then but I was still doing the majority of coloring because I found it. This is gonna sound bad, but I found it easy. So I was
I understand. I understand what you mean. There's a certain ease that certain jobs have. Like you just have a natural ability to do that one a little bit easier, right?
Yeah.
It's just how it works.
It was something I was really I was suited for this.
Yeah.
But while I was doing that, I had to work with my illustration, because I didn't want to draw a lot of other people's stories. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but for a while, I just didn't want to do it. So I'd work on my own stuff while coloring. And then after doing a million indie books, every now and then I see a cover or something, and I'm like, I forgot that I wanted that. But then a friend of mine, John Lamb, he is a jack of all trades. He does everything. I don't know how he does it, and I don't even know how he finds the time to do it all. But he asked me, he's like, "Hey, I asked him. I was like, do you want to collaborate on something? Because again, I love collaborations." And he was like, "Definitely, we got to do it." But then he's like, "Actually, I'm getting a little busy right now. Marvel asked me to draw a book for them. But actually, hey, if you want to color it, I'll ask them, send me your information." And I was like, cool. So we kind of collaborated, but it was on a Marvel book. And it was, what is it? I think IO to press it. It was one of those Marvel tournament of champions or something.
Oh, Contest of Champions.
There we go. Yeah. So we did that book, and I think I was hoping it was going to lead to more, but John, he's super super busy. He does everything. So then he moved on to other projects, and I was just all right, cool. So I was working on like a lot of different things. Even now, like I try to think of the things I worked on the last few years, and I'm like, I drew a kid's book. I had a playmat for a toy company. I've colored countless indie books that when people are like, hey, working on issue 2, issue 3, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. Wait, what do it look like again? Which book is this? Like it was a lot of that. And I found like it's a really nice area with art and comics. I realized like I don't want to do these like super long stories. I like doing these like little bite-sized things, like 5 issues, 4 issues. Like I like working on these small projects and moving on to the next one because it keeps it really fresh for me. Like I think like my mind just works that way. I love it. Because also like you stay excited. If you're like working on issue 15 of whatever book, I'm not gonna be excited at that point. I'm like not in the same way. But like issue 1, excited. Issue 2, cool. In issue 3, you're like, maybe this is a lull. Then issue 4, you're like, I'm almost done. So I can get excited to realize I'm like, oh, I'm almost on to the next thing.
Right.
And that's right about when Jason Liu and Chip Zdarsky reached out for Afterlift. And from then we just kind of been riding this high. And because I mean it was great. I would say book was the most fun to work on. Not a knock on anyone else's books, but that one, it just gave me, I had so much fun with it. I was allowed to be artistic, I think. It wasn't about, like, there's points I've said to people before. I don't always want to do something that I guess makes sense if it's not fun. So sometimes when I'm coloring something, I'll play up the fantasy side of it if it's more fun. And I think like that definitely shows in a lot of the work. I think it's a very fun looking book. I know like a lot of people read it, like they've said they really liked it. And I'm like, cool. I haven't even read the whole thing, like page, like front to back yet. Mostly because like, I've read like issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, but not all together.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it's like fantastically done, like from everybody else on the team. I would like to feel like everyone did a great job, and I did like a job where I'm like good enough. I reached the level, like I'm standing with them, right? Yeah. I like to feel like I pulled my weight. That's the way I look at it.
Mm-hmm. Didn't let the team down, kind of thing, and you didn't. Like it looks great. Like
I mean,
everyone was like operating on a very high level.
Yeah, no, I like, because like I've been friends with Jason for years. I saw his work like totally level up when he worked on it. Mm-hmm. Even like seeing his work now, because I've seen like some other projects he's worked on, and his work is like he's just consistently getting better, and it's really cool to see. I like to think I'm also improving.
No, for sure. So will we see any more Haven?
I would love to. It is a thing like I am working on when I can. But because there's no like due date on it,
right?
It's one of those things where like you have another idea, like that'd be cool if I added this. I can work that in. And then you realize like, all right, I'm not making forward progression anymore. But I would like to put something out. Like I think it's a really cool story. I mean, obviously a little biased, but I think people are really gonna like it eventually when it comes out. But when it comes out, I think people are gonna like it. When it comes out. Eventually.
And you're going back to the shows. That's one of the things that I miss about not having the circuit because of COVID is not only the networking, but also that instant reaction from fans on what you're doing. When they come by your table and they go, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. It's almost like an instant, what do you call it? Like a focus group to let you know, yeah, you're going the right direction or you're not going in the right direction.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if you have like a poster up or something, and people just keep walking by after they looked at it, I'm like, no, I don't think that's good. I've described what I go for my art more as like someone saying, no, shut up, I'm talking. That's kind of what I want my art to do. So when someone's at a show, like they have like my portfolio out, I want them to like be walking by and be like, oh, hold on, what's this? Like that's the effect I want. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I feel like I've been working more like toward that. And I think that there's some pieces I've really kind of exemplify that. Um, like I did this static shock drawing.
I was just going to mention that one. I was just going to mention that. I really like that.
Thank you. I mean, I worked on that piece, like the thumbnails for it, for a month. It's because I'm like, this isn't it.
Right.
There's a certain level of energy that I want that I just couldn't get for a long time. And I was talking to my friend Nicola at one point, and I was almost near the end of it, like the end of the piece, and I was like, there's something more that I need. And like, because it was like on the bottom of the piece is like it's like rocks everywhere. Where they're being like ripped up from the ground as like he's like going across. And it was that. And I added that in because like I want to show like the speed, but I also kind of want to show like some power to what he was doing. And then like when the colors, like I did the colors, like it was just making it exciting. I feel like it's a difference in a cover and like a poster and a comic page. There's a comic page, I can't make every single panel like punch you in the face with like look at this.
Well, you'd wear out the reader.
Yeah,
first of all.
Exactly. No one wants to finish a comic feeling all beat up.
Right.
It's like every now and then, like you want like the splash pages to like jump out at you. And like the covers maybe tell a bit more of a story than like a poster will. Because I knew I wasn't doing a cover for this. It was just, here's like this energy on the page. And that's really like, I found it actually difficult to capture in some pieces afterward. So it's like where you feel like you're leveling up, but you're like, no, this one was the one where like it set a new bar. Now every time I'm just like trying to like jump to hit that same bar. But I have some pieces like kind of in store I think people are gonna like. I'm trying to hopefully match that same level of shut up, I'm talking.
That's cool.
But yeah, I miss going to cons. I like the like people walking by and talking to you about the pieces. There's always like a nice like, oh, I've seen that before. I'm like, yes. I mean, because like it's either saw it on like Instagram or Twitter or like someone posted on Reddit maybe,
right?
Or someone posted it without credit on Pinterest probably.
Yeah.
But like that like feeling like it's great when people like I guess recognize something like, oh, like I saw you here last year. Yeah, you had like this, knowing me, probably Spider-Man drawing that I bought. And they're like, yeah, cool, thank you. I got sent a picture yesterday. Somebody tattooed my static shock piece onto this dude's calf, and I'm like, man,
that's pretty cool.
I didn't see that coming.
That's
and it was really cool to see. Definitely not what I expected in those my notifications. A lot, because I mean it's mostly like people like guessing like whatever character's coming tomorrow, but it's like also, by the way, here's this tattooed your static shock and your Miles Morales drawing on this guy's calf. And I mean it looked good.
That dude's a fan. That dude's a definite fan. No denying.
I mean, hell, he better tattoo my signature on it next time I see him.
And you have a lot of Spider-Man references. Is he your favorite?
He's my favorite to draw, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like to read has always been Daredevil, but right. Spider-Man is so much fun. And I think like there's like an art to drawing Spider-Man well. And I feel like a lot of time you see people drawing Spider-Man and it's not, I'm not trying to be offensive at all, but like it's boring.
Right.
It's like a Spider-Man just kind of like swinging and like, yeah, it's swinging from like you'd see someone's like swing from a vine and like, well, it's not fun. Mm-hmm. Like, but Spider-Man, because of like who he is as a character and like the way like his body like contorts.
Yeah, he's got that like, double jointed, depending on the artist, he's got that double jointed kind of aspect to him.
Yeah, and like so because of that, it's like he's less a gymnast than like Daredevil is. He's more like an uncoordinated goof, like just bending his body as he's going through the buildings,
Yeah.
So for that, I mean, I love to have every now and then, like I'll be just kind of like sketching as like a Spider-Man drawing, and I get to the point I'm like, this is it. This one's weird enough, like, but there's also like you can see like there's like the force of like the movement, and I'm like, this is it. Like there's an energy to it. Like you captured it. Like you did a good job. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people will draw him basically just sitting while he's in like midair.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not really fun. Like if it's Spider-Man, you gotta have fun. I mean, what's the point if you're not having fun?
So true. So true. And what are you watching? Are you watching anything to give you inspiration? Or are there any shows or music that you tap into?
I mean, I can have weird answers for all of these. I mean, obviously I'm watching like WandaVision like everybody else is right now. But in terms of like for like inspiration for some of the things, like in terms of stories, um I have like the biggest inspiration for me like writing stories is documentaries about the Russian monarchy.
Wow.
I'm super into like all like the layered like aspects of like different czars, different people like that have affected them, the downfall of like the Russian monarchy and like everything that led up to it. Anybody who knows me who's gonna watch this, they're gonna be like, oh my god, you have to talk about it. I'm that dude. I get into a conversation. If you let me talk about it, I'm gonna bring it up.
Bring it up. Let's go.
But like I'll get into that. Because like music, I listen to a lot of like like 90s hip hop and R&B, and I love to say it's like, oh, I have like that type of taste, but it's really more, this is what I remember listening to in the car with my parents when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a song comes on and you don't realize you know it, but you know it.
Right.
And I like that level of comfort while I'm drawing or something. It helps me like get into like the zone where all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm finished. Mm-hmm. Because there's that familiarity that comes with it. So I don't have to be focusing on the music. I don't have to be focusing on anything really. It's just, I'm going with the flow, and that's how I get the piece out.
Right.
In terms of like actual like shows, I'm not, honestly not really. If I'm watching like a show, I like would love to say I watch like like things cool like fight scenes, but I really don't. It's like me and my fiance were watching like dumb comedies and just laughing like idiots. But I mean, I will sit there, and she hates this probably, but like I'll sit there, it's kind of like looking to the side, like really stern. I'm like, no, hold on, I'm thinking of something. Like, okay, and then I'll like pull a sketchbook and like quickly draw a few lines. I'm like, got it, it's my competition for tomorrow. Back to the show.
Right.
It's like I do a lot of shapes for designs. Like whenever I do any sort of composition, it's just like, here's a rectangle. This is a rectangle here and a triangle next to it. This rectangle is the person in the foreground. The triangle is, I don't know, some like tree and like magic in the background. And then there's like a couple lines to show like how I want to like bend the perspective,
right,
to pull the focus where I need to go. So it's really abstract when you first see it, which is why I said my sketchbook is not at all interesting to look at. It is like just a guy who looks like he's drawing shapes. It looks like I'm always just warming up.
Right.
But I see the very abstract pieces. I'm able to see. I look at it. I'm like, I understand what this is supposed to be, and I need to put this like on paper now. Like I need to actually draw the piece. Because if I wait even a week, I'll look at it and be like, I don't know what's this. This is nonsense. Throw it away.
So I'm going back to the czars. Are we going to see something from you which has that as its base, but then has the skin of something else?
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
But
good.
also, I'm going to see the flip. A writer and I are working on this 4-page short right now, and he said the magic words. I didn't even know he was saying them, but he said them. He said the main character is like the superhero, just like a 4-page like kind of like action sequence. And he said he's dressed kind of like a royal. And I was like, oh, royalty, you say? Okay. Mm-hmm. No parameters like to what kind of royal or who it is I need to work with. No, all right, czar. Like he has like the beard, he has a mustache. Oh man. The background of my phone is a picture of like the czar, like Tsar Nicholas II, with like an emoji of me, of his head on top, like winking. Whenever anyone's like, oh, what's the phone background? I'm like, here, let me show it. Here it is. Because I see it I used to picture me and my fiance, and I had this idea, and it's been this for over a year now. And she's like, my background's a picture of us. I'm like, yeah, my background's a picture of the czar. But yeah, no, it is a lot of the themes from like a lot of like that history are so interesting to me. So I've tried to include them in like stories whenever I can. But I still like to tell people, I mean, like I'm not that much of a writer. I use like a lot of like structures from things and try to like
Right.
fit my characters in around them. And like I think it's working out so far. I'm saying if people want to really look into the when I eventually put Haven out, if people are interested in what the backstory is, or because I have my main story, but I also want to do like a little like an issue where it shows like the history of like how we got here, just maybe to explain why like the absence from like issue 1 to whatever I do next. And that is I'm not even trying to hide how inspired I am by the Russian monarchy with that. It is just, I don't know, it's so interesting.
Well, I think because I'm like you, like I love, action adventure. I love sci-fi. Like you, I'm watching WandaVision, and it's kind of funny. Like I'm watching that and I have my own kind of like theories of what's going on and how they're going to twist things to continue whatever phase they're in for Marvel. But I also love documentaries and just watching the news, kind of like that Dick Wolf pull from the headlines kind of thing that he does for his TV shows.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how, we've read comics our entire lives, but they are sprinkled with humanity and the things that go on every day, the trials and tribulations of every person, the injustices that have gone along, and you draw inspiration from that to tell and feed tell the stories you want to tell and feed the muse that's within all of us. So you can watch something on HBO and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe someone went through that. And then you're like, and there's a story there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter like what it is, but like I always find I'm like pulling small things. Like I feel like your super fantastic stories, like you're reading comics and like they have like the movies. It's like these unbelievable situations, but they need to react in realistic ways. And that's why we read them, that's why we watch them, that's why we relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think that's really interesting. Like I want to have my characters who go through something that I wouldn't go through, but if I were to have gone through it, like I probably would react that way. Like this is how I would take this hard. It would be difficult for me to I don't know, try to like control my powers like this character does. Like it would be difficult on me, it would affect my personal life. It would make me distant, make me cold like Batman. I don't know. But
yeah, it's funny because you mentioned Daredevil, right? And like I'm a Spider-Man guy, no secret to anyone who knows me. But I like Daredevil is one of my top guys as well too. And I think the thing that I like about him is that he's blind, but he sees better than most. Like he sees what's in people just as a lawyer to be able to defend them. And the trials and tribulations that the writers put him into would break anybody. And his faith just allows him to come back all the time to fight again. Like he's an amazing character.
I love like the multifacetedness of like Daredevil in terms of like it's him and him questioning his faith and
yes,
him like believing what he's doing is right and like him having to, though like people around him are consistently like, Matt, you gotta calm down. Like this is not like what you're doing. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Sit down for a second and think. But he's so like dedicated to his like causes, his path, that he's always pushes himself through it. I think like that's like one thing I really love with the character. There's a line in I think the Defenders series that like Daredevil's like I think he says to Stick is like, don't use my faith against me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, Daredevil should say that to his writers.
Right?
Because it's just like, oh well, Daredevil, there you go. Catholic guilt. And I'm like, oh man, some of that has to suck.
Yeah, and he also needs help in picking a significant other because his girlfriend choices are dubious at best.
I mean, he has a really interesting group of women that he's like being with him. Like,
mm-hmm.
I will say, I don't believe that there's been nearly enough love given to Echo, deaf woman
mm-hmm.
that he was with. Like, I would love to see her right now. Like, it was just fun. I don't know why. I loved that, like the comic book she was introduced years and years ago. I'm gonna read that again. All this conversation is me like thinking about different stories. I'm like, I'm gonna read that later.
Yeah, right. Like I the one that this is a while ago, but for me was when Typhoid Mary was just burning his entire existence to the ground. It was amazing how he was torn physically as well as spiritually. They just do some really great stuff with him, and
I think
to this day.
yeah, there's like, because there's a lot you can play on. I love the Daredevil stories about like him and his like relationship with like his father.
Mm-hmm.
There's Daredevil father. I really enjoyed that. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about it, but the art is so exaggerated in it that I really really like it. Uh, and I love like Daredevil Yellow because it's so artistic. There's so many Daredevil stories. Like I don't want to say like I love everything because I feel like I'm not a great critic of things. My friends have told me that I'm off a critic because I love everything. Like I go to a Marvel movie and I walk out of it and I'm like, genius, you did it again. There you go. Go home and I'm like, wow, I love that movie. And until I have other friends come to me and they're like, no, think critically about this. What about this part? This is clearly an issue. I'm like, okay, I guess I can see that. Still though, you had fun though, didn't you? Because I did. I have fun in all those movies. I love them.
And in the end, that's the bottom line, right? Like
exactly.
I think like I love DC. I'm a Marvel guy, but I love DC. But I think that's the one element that's missing from a lot of their cinematic stuff that they get in the cartoons. You just don't have as much fun watching a DC movie.
And when because they've established it so much as like a kind of a not fun like universe, when they do try to sprinkle jokes in, I'm like, what was that? Like, this is a serious moment. What is this guy doing? Like, all right, settle down. This isn't a joking matter.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how the Snyder Cut kind of fits into everything.
Yeah, I'm super hopeful. No. I don't think it's gonna be any better, but I'm gonna watch it anyway. So I'm hoping for the best.
Oh, for sure. It's what we do, right? So you got to take a look at it and see. Like I will say, personally, I really like Henry Cavill as Superman, and I just feel like they don't give him enough to either say or do. So hopefully in the Snyder Cut, and he's got the black suit on, he at least comes off being cool. Because I think Superman gets a raw deal when it comes to cool factor, especially with Batman running around.
Oh yeah, and I'm like, Superman. I don't know. I could go on and on about Superman. I think Superman is way cooler and like more interesting than people give him credit for. But that's just me. And a lot of people say like he's boring, he's super powerful. That's not fun. I'm like, it's just the humanity side of it that he has to struggle with. That I think is like that's where you make Superman interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about like who he's fighting and if he has an easy time doing it. It's about him struggling in other parts of his life. But I mean, teach his own.
Yeah, for sure. Like I personally like when they take him off planet myself. So you still have that humanity because he brings Earth with him, but then he gets to kind of soup out and show what he can actually do all the time instead of holding back. Yeah,
and I know like DC did this thing. I don't know if they're still doing it, where there was just like these like little mini Superman stories. I think it was like The Adventures of Superman, and it was like one issue, different like writer and artist, and like we're gonna tell this story. Cool, one and done. Next issue, different story, different team. And I really liked that. I was like, cool. I don't know what to expect at all from this, but it was just so much fun.
No, like, definitely.
They had some good ones.
So I want to thank you for joining me today. But what do you have coming up that you can kind of give us a little bit of a snippet before we head out?
Obviously, until the end of the month, we're working on the Black History Month piece. New character coming every day. We have some good ones coming up. And also I'm actually, it was recently announced I'm going to be an illustrator on Cypress Hill. They're putting out this, I believe it's a graphic novel or a series of comics to celebrate the 30th anniversary of their debut album.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm one of, I think like 4 or 5 illustrators who are on the project. And I'm really looking forward to it. The other illustrators are amazing. Again, it's another one of those things where I'm like, yeah, no, I belong in this room, right? Yeah, no, I'm here. They chose me. Like, I can do this. But no, I'm really excited to start working on that. That should be really pretty soon. And I think it's coming this summer probably. But also, we have another project not yet announced that I'll be working on again with the same like Afterlift team. That's all I'm going to say about it. But people should look forward to it.
Excellent. And where can people find you on social media?
Pretty much I am on like all social media, Instagram, Twitter, mostly just at Paris Alleyne. Keep it simple. Just my name.
Excellent. Well, Paris, I want to thank you. Again, congratulations on all your success and looking forward to what you have coming out in the future. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, perfect. Thanks for listening, everyone. And once again, a special thank you to Paris Alleyne. We look forward to your comments, so reach out to us on Facebook and at Comix Asylum on Instagram and Twitter.